Good afternoon, and welcome to Moving Forward, your leadership connection during these times. If you see this big bright smile on my face, we have had the pre-meeting before the meeting with the illustrious Caroline Wanga and Kiera Fernandez. I'm telling you, if you're on this call for serious, you're gonna get some content, you're gonna get some information, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. Okay, so I see already we have about a third of our attendees that have logged in. But before we get started, why don't we, in the chat say hello and see where people are calling in from. I'm going to put in, hi, Sheila from North Carolina. And also, Kiera and Caroline wants to know, tell them, Caroline, what did you want to ask them? What has COVID done to you?
Listen, I want to hear about the thing that is vain and unnecessary and superficial and bougie that you miss during this time, or you're frustrated about with this time. Mine is pants. Why I gotta wear pants if my whole life is gonna be half of my body? I'm selling my pants.
Okay. Mine is, I am annoyed that I bought my gown to wear to the Executive Leadership Council in the fall, and I'm not gonna be able to wear my gown and the shoes and the earrings, okay?
The shade of it all, the shade of it all.
It's terrible. Mine is, I have a very vain beauty routine that includes manicures, pedicures, eyebrow waxing, eyelash things, facials, the whole nine, and all of those things have been put on hold. And it's very vain and it's very bougie, to your question, Caroline, and I miss all of it. These nails have not
I'm not like, oh my God. First world problem.
1998. I miss my routines.
Roxanne, I see you on the eyebrow waxing. You see how big my glasses frames are. We try to just keep stuff undercover till we can get free. Woof!
We got hello from New Jersey, Minnesota, Los Angeles, Texas, Chicago. Oh my God. There's
everybody from Kenya? No, there's not. I got it. I'll represent.
Oh, I'm Sue. I work in the mayor's office in Omaha, Nebraska.
Hey, Sue.
Hey, Sue.
Tell the mayor we said what up.
Yeah, there's Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, Angela from Greensboro. Hey, sister girl. Now, you know I miss having lunch with you at that Chinese restaurant you turned me on to.
I love it. Kira, somebody said they missed their high heel shoes.
Oh my gosh. Well, I don't wear a flat because I have, Caroline likes to hear me talk about my designer foot that I have.
Lord, the designer feet.
I miss wearing my shoes because I don't like to be flat on the ground unless I'm in flip-flops or I'm barefoot. So it has been an adjustment walking around the house without shoes or just getting dressed and not putting shoes on every day.
Hey,
not only does she have a designer foot, she likes a 105 pitch.
Yes, a 105 pitch in my design with my designer foot, just like this.
Hey, Caroline, I think Kimberly Strong from Atlanta misses eyelashes. Girl, you know you better go on Target and order that eyelash clip where you put the...
I saw somebody on YouTube doing that. Part of the point of vanity is I don't want to do it. I'm not touching my eyes.
My nails are missed too.
I feel you, sister girl.
Yeah, those that have joined us, this amazing executive team wants everything to be light. We got enough dealing with when we turn on the channel. They have lots of content, lots of information to give you. But as we are waiting for at least a quarter of our attendees to log in, we just wanted everyone to just share where they are dialing in from and some of the things that they are missing. Let's see, DeVita, local government in Virginia. I'm excited about this. COVID has taken our daily work, but that's okay because this session right here is about turning your powerlessness into power. And that's what we do. When we address the issues that we are dealing with, and we do have resources. There are ways. We might be sitting in front of a Zoom camera or in our living room or in our kitchen, but we can turn our powerlessness into power. Okay.
All right, Reverend. All
Yes.
right, Reverend. Somebody
You know,
said
I
they
think
missed their
that this-
bartender. Me too. I miss
Yes,
a bartender.
even the
too.
lightheartedness that we've had, just being, just being ourselves, and the pre-call, and as people are coming in, as you're talking about the vain things that we miss, I think this experience will forever change the appreciation that we have for those simple moments to just sit in a restaurant or, with your friends, your family, and, be able to hug people. So, a lot of my friends have heard me say, my love language is physical touch, right? I love to be in community with people, and the proximity to other human beings is part of how I'm wired. And so I'm like, what am I going to do when I have to change the entire way in which I'm programmed to interact with another person? I see someone, I'm not a handshaker, I'm a hugger. Well, now it's not even like how we have to, physically distance ourselves in terms of the way in which we engage. But if a lot of how you operate is the connection that you get in hugging and close proximity, that's an adjustment. So I know for me, one of the things that not only am I missing, but when the time comes when we manage through this, like we just don't know what that time frame is. I will never, ever again take for granted the simple, physical connection, the hug of a friend, being in McCormick and Schmidt at happy hour and having a poke bowl and a glass of cab and laughing and having fun with your friends, being in the backyard with your friends, celebrating birthdays and holidays. I just think that and the positive silver lining in this is that we've now forever changed and shaped the way that we actually interact with people and don't take it for granted.
Yeah, we'll never take it for granted. And I think that I will want to be invited to, I remember I would get all types of invitations, and I would be so exhausted from work or just thinking about what I have to do later to make me not accept an entertaining invitation. When we do get to the other side and it's safe and our safety and health is guaranteed, my wardrobe is ready. I will attend every event I am invited to. So with that,
Sheila, like Kiera's having that moment. What I'm appreciative for is the immersive experience all extroverts are going through. For those of us introverts that are thriving. Sorry. Okay, we can start.
Caroline, I'm just not believing you are an introvert. You keep saying that. It's no way. I think you're a closet extrovert. That's what I think you are.
If you spend every day with me, you'd understand why I have special relationships with all my delivery drivers. DoorDash, Instacart. Those are my closest intimate relationships, and we love each other.
Well, we love you, and we're so glad that you and Kiera have joined us. I want to give them a fitting introduction. So those of you that do not work closely with them, that are not aligned in the industries that they serve, and are joining us today to find out how you can take some of their leadership, their thought leadership, the resources that they'll be able to share with you and apply them to your lives. And just have fun. So Caroline is the chief, Kiera. Kiera is the vice president of human resources at Target. In her current role, she serves as the vice president of HR for global supply chain logistics and operations at Target. Wow. In addition to her human resource expertise, Kiera has an extensive background in retail operations, process and project management, store operations, and team leadership. She began her career at Target in 2001 as an executive team leader for stores, subsequently serving in a variety of leadership roles. Since that time, Kiera has led teams in merchandising, stores, operations, and human resources. Over the last several years, she has continued to build a career across multiple HR functions. Kiera and her husband, Dan, now remember, the husband name is Dan, are proud parents of Kaylin, Christian, Karen, and Kayla, okay? So Dan didn't have any, what you say, Dan helped get them there, but he had
K's
nothing.
rule the world. We are a K tribe, all K's.
K
And my
tribe.
mom's name is Karen.
She is a certified yoga instructor and spends much of her free time teaching and practicing at Core Power Yoga. So you let us know where we can log in on that Zoom Core Power Yoga class. I know you're teaching somewhere.
Absolutely.
Caroline Wanga is the Chief Culture, Diversity, and Inclusion Officer and Vice President of Human Resources, Target Corporation. She leads Target strategic intent to champion an inclusive society with accountability for inclusive guest experiences, a diverse and inclusive work environment, and societal impact. As a cultural catalyst, she fuels Target's business objectives through the company's first ever performance-based D&I goals. Launched in 2015, supplier diversity, marketing, philanthropy, retention, hiring, representation, and engagement have significantly improved under her leadership. As of August 2019, she has the added responsibility for shaping Target's organization culture. She is a Kenyan citizen, as she asks, is anyone on the line from Kenya? She has been recognized as a top executive in corporate diversity by Black Enterprise, recognized in Savoy magazine for the most powerful woman, one of the most powerful women in corporate America. She is a member of the Executive Leadership Council, the Talladega College Board of Trustees, the Twitter's Intersectionality, Culture, and Diversity Advisory Board, and co-chair of the Retail Industry Leaders Association Diversity and Inclusion Initiative. Her greatest life accomplishment is her daughter, Cadence. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You sure did. Look at my baby, y'all.
We love her.
She gonna kill me. She's 23. She gonna kill me.
Okay.
I don't know why you showed that picture. Cadence might pop into the text stream with her own emoji. She is Cadence is perfection. I can attest to that.
Listen, look at all this excitement over here. Okay, so without further ado, listen, if I normally moderate a panel, but I think I'm just gonna turn this over to them and they're going to make it happen. But I do want to start out with asking you, what are you most proud of about the culture at Target and Target's response to COVID for the community and your employees?
Yeah.
Kiera, you wanna go first?
Sure. That's such a good, timely, important question, because what I'm most proud of, and it flows effervescently because I feel honored and privileged to be in the trenches with really the heroes of our organization, which are our frontline teams. And what I'm proud of is our company that we work for made an intentional decision to put our team members at the center of every decision that we made. Not just through, that's been a part of our purpose and our culture, but it's been more magnified in what we've been dealing with the last 60 to 90 days, that every decision that we have made, we first said, what will be the impact to our team? And again, Sheila, to what I was saying about heroes, our teams are making sure that the products that our country needs, food, clothes, medicine, basic essentials and life needs, are available. And they're doing that in a really cross-functional way, from our sourcing teams across the globe to our supply chain team, which I support right now, and everything that they're doing to make sure that we move product to the right places, to our stores team that are standing right there, standing in the gap of this crisis for our guests and for our communities. And so that's an easy question for me, because I've had 19 years of working for this company to experience the team member, the employee that works at Target being at the center of our decisions. And it's never been more profound than it has been right now. And I just feel fortunate to be around other contemporaries, other peers and partners like Caroline and our other peers in the organization that are able to participate in moments like this and really be ambassadors to the work that's happening, because the heroes, the folks that are in our distribution centers, that are in our stores every day, making sure that we're serving our guests, are doing just that. And it's an impact to our country and making sure that our country has places that they can go for the things that they need in life right now. See, okay, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
Flying Target flags, okay? We're gonna start flying Target flags in front of y'all.
I love it.
People are saying they love your T-shirt also.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't buy it nowhere because I bartered for it. But it's appropriate for the times. The only thing I would add to what Kiera said, I agree with everything she said, and I think the theme of us being able to serve safely is really what resonates with me. The only thing I would add, so we can make sure we get to as many questions as possible, is that the thing I'm proudest about is I recognize us in the midst of the crisis the same way we were when there wasn't a crisis. We are the same company. And for me, that makes me most proud because people know my passion for authenticity, and who you are is easy to talk about when things are good. When things are bad, you get to prove if you were lying. And I'm just completely, I'm just filled with joy and respect for the fact that you can recognize us now as much as you could recognize us a year ago, and as much as you'll be able to recognize us in a year. And that is a place of pride that I don't take lightly, because that doesn't happen a lot.
And I mean, a lot happened and quickly. And so I love how you said that you got to prove if you were lying when things got bad. And apparently they've been consistent even through the good and the bad. But, you know, so the reputation of having happy customers and because of, you know, the pay and all the other great benefits that people love working at Target. But how did you keep your employees safe and happy when COVID hit?
You want to start with some of the stuff that happened in the field, Keith?
For sure. So again, when you put your team member, our team, in the center of every decision, trade-offs become easy. Prioritization becomes really easy. And so for us, we really anchored in the guidelines that came from the CDC and rooted ourselves in the facts and the data and the precautions to make sure that our environments were as safe as possible. So that began with things like having an incredibly rigorous sanitation and cleaning process. So how were we immediately ensuring that all of our locations, whether it was a store, whether it was a distribution facility, that were clean, sanitized, with the right cleaning materials, things that we knew, again, from the CDC guidelines were most effective. We quickly rushed to implement social and physical distancing guidance that came from the CDC, not just in the guest-facing areas, but also in our team member-only areas. So think about our break rooms, where folks have non-production time, and made sure that those were implemented immediately. We communicated robustly to our team. So our team knew from the beginning, this is what we're going to do. This is what's coming from the CDC. This is information that you need to know to make sure that you understand the actions that we're taking to make sure that we aligned to those guidelines. We made sure that our team members had gloves. We make sure that our stores teams have masks for every shift, that our supply chain teams have masks and gloves for every shift. So we anchored ourselves in the data, which was the guidance from, again, the CDC, and quickly were able to scale to those items and to those processes easily. And I say easy because, to Caroline's point, we have a purpose and a strategy that was already designed to make sure that we had investments and incentives in our team. And so when you know that that's your anchor, the way in which you have to procure other PPE type things to make sure that you got them to your team, you were able to make those decisions. when we had to scale up processes very fast, we were able to quickly galvanize a group of people, the decision makers, the folks at the table between our merchandising teams, our supply chain teams, and our stores teams to make decisions fast. And so we quickly went with the science, the data, and communicated frequently, and do that still every day with our teams.
Yeah, the only pieces I would add to that are, and you know, Kiera and I are members of the HR function within Target, but of course, as she's talking and I'm talking, right, it's a collective effort of everybody playing their role that brings us here. Two additional things that I would highlight that were also a part of what we did to keep our team safe is we, like, and our colleague Mike O'Neill led this beautifully, where we also really said, okay, in addition to what we need to do for all, we are getting information about what might be differently vulnerable populations, right? Whether it be being pregnant over 65, having underlying conditions, things like that. And so quickly also mobilized efforts to help those that might be most vulnerable not have to choose between whether or not I'm coming to work sick or not, by extending leave to those populations for the right amount of time, with them in mind, with no need to go through a rigorous process to prove it other than to activate the need to take your leave. And that decision to combine all of those things, make them immediately available to our team, so that if you want to serve and can't because you've got a different vulnerability to this disease, we still care about you. And it's still important to us that you're healthy. And we don't want to have to make you decide between being healthy and being able to provide for your family. And so a robust plan that does that, and things up to backup daycare and a bunch of other things that we initially did to help people not feel like they have to decide, was really critical to being able to have those populations feel safe. When you're the 8th largest employer in the country, that's a lot of people, right? That we want to make sure are safe. And then the second piece I'd say, and I have a peer named Emily on the HRLT team, is also talking to our leaders about how to do resilient leadership, how to do adaptable leadership, how to make sure that we are offering across our pay and benefits and our training teams resources for mental health, making sure they've got access to what they need. And then our HR generalist team just does a great on always keeping their ear to the ground, whether they're in a store, a DC, or headquarters, on what else might be individualized or pockets of needs that we need to solve for. And then those go through our system and see where we can help. But we were committed to not making people decide between their health and being able to provide for their family. And again, that is a target I recognize.
Mm-hmm.
Caroline,
those were enterprise decisions. I think that's such an important piece to pick up, because what we see happening across the country to try to address this horrible virus is delineation state by state. And this state is doing this. This state is sheltering. This state is bringing people back. This state is doing this. So when you think about where we operate and do business, we're doing that through the lens of 50 different state ordinances and hundreds of different municipalities and local governments. And so our position in those decisions around keeping our team safe, keeping our team healthy, and be able to scale that and extrapolate it across not only the whole enterprise that we employ people in, but the country, is important. And it's complicated and it's complex, and you have to make sure that you're abiding within all of the appropriate regulatory and compliance frameworks. And those are the behind the scenes things that most people don't see. They just assume or think that you can turn the switch on something and the next day it activates, and that's not the case. And so the one additional part of how we kept our team safe, which goes back to the way in which we operate when you're not lying and you're authentic, we have vendor partnerships with so many other companies that we work with that were a part of how we were able to unlock this with speed differently. So our vendor partnerships across a number of different agencies and a number of different businesses that were able to help us scale to these incentives and these protections for our team pretty quickly.
So I have a mentor question for you both, because everybody doesn't, we all don't have the good fortune of working for a Target. But
we hiring though. We hiring.
Yes.
So if you're interested, shout out Brad Taylor. Just gotta, whatever.
Okay. So if one of your peers, and someone listening on this call, and may ask, what, I've been asked to come into a leadership team, what are some generic best practices? I'm going to be in this meeting, how we're going to address it, how we're going to anything, whether it's bringing your customers back in safely, or anything that that is public, that may be something that you can share, a resource or a tip that you all have found out that if the masses knew this, that they could do their jobs easier. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, like you're seeing me smile real big because again, on this scale of like, are you the same organization when stuff hits the fan? And Target has always been, Laisha Ward uses this word called co-opetition, which is like competition and collaboration together. And one of the things that I am most proud of as an answer to that question, Sheila, is we actually documented what we did to keep our stores open and safe, what we did with our teams, so that as this reopening stage starts for different organizations, literally it's a completely free, safe toolkit that's available. We can make sure you guys get the link after this. That is about, here's everything that we learned. And we want to make it available to whoever needs it, if it's helpful in what adapted form, so that we're not just focused on the 350,000 people that work for us and the millions of guests that shop with us, because this pandemic is not drawing lines around particular groups. This particular pandemic is impacting everybody. So we always have an obligation as a company to be more than nearby to the communities that we operate in. We have to operate like a neighbor. And if we've got the privilege of capacity, resources, skills, talent, and we're able to move through this that way, we want everybody else to have the same chance. So if you Google, or if you go to our corporate website, you'll see what's the SAFE, SAFE. It's an acronym toolkit, where we have documented everything we did to keep our teams safe and healthy, to keep our guests served, to ensure that we were not doing anything that would help propel and increase what's happening with the virus. And we hope and wish that that free tool will help business owners, individuals understand what we learn going forward. You guys may learn things, come on, call back and tell us so we can learn some of that too. But the idea is just to make sure that everything that we did is available to everybody. So I could go through specific, Sheila, but what I'm most proud of is the fact that the toolkit's created, available, and out there. Go look through it. Somebody just put the link in the chat. Tarek did. He's on my team.
Hey, Tarek. Thanks, Tarek.
Thank you, Tarek. So, and also, listen, there's a Q&A button. Start asking questions because we want to give them, we're going to talk a few more. We're going to talk about 10, 15 more minutes and or less, depending on how many questions. But I want to talk about, I want you to share with me how many, the number of people that you are responsible for and what you're doing to keep them motivated and engaged. Because as you're saying, I work for a good company, they're keeping me safe, but I'm still, I'm working from home. I have my kids. How do I stay motivated and engaged? So,
yeah. Well, at any point in time, I'm glad that you brought that up. Somebody could bust in this office, probably my son Caleb. He might have on either a Spider-Man or Black Panther costume. I was on a work call last week, and he ran around the corner with a Spider-Man suit on and went like this and shot a web and ran out. And I share that story because I don't think that's unique to me. Whether you're working and your kids are there, or you're caregiving for your parents or some other part of your family, or even if you're alone and the challenges that come with being in your home alone and you're sheltering, and the Zoom is as close to human connection as you're getting right now, that need to stay engaged is really important. And, as I shared earlier, it's also about understanding what for you individually becomes a moment of wellness and self-care check-in. These guys know this. Before we started the call, I was sharing moments right before this call, our leadership team was really talking about the resiliency and adaptability in leadership. And how I've heard so many stories from folks on my team and colleagues that are like, I feel so guilty that, you know, I just was at my limit yesterday and I just had to get out of the house and I just had to take a walk because my kids are on my last nerve. Or, you know, one of my yoga friends shared with me, like, the way I never listened to the sound of my husband chewing food, and it's just annoyed me. I think I've spent too much time with him. And you know, feeling guilty about feeling that way. There's so many other people that have been impacted by this gravely. They've got a friend or a loved one or a parent or a spouse who's either been impacted by this virus or they've lost a loved one, and having like that tug and pull of guilt of like, no matter how I'm feeling, I'm still better off than someone else. And those things are all true. But that doesn't mean that you have any less empathy, care, compassion, or love for your fellow contemporaries or humanity because you're hitting points of what's the word I'm looking for? Frustration, or you're hitting your wit's end in wherever you are. And so engagement for me personally is my practice, my wellness practice, right? Like I work out, physical activity is important to me. I can feel myself becoming more crusty and more annoyed with people or things when I haven't had the exertion of energy. And so engagement is such an individualized thing. And so I would encourage folks to start to maybe spend some time reflecting, talking to each other, being transparent, take those trusted partners and ask them, like, do you notice when I'm a little bit more ornery than other? Like, what is it that happens? And take that insight to understand more about yourself and what that trigger is when you start to disengage or feel engaged. Because what we know now more than any other time is we're going to be sitting in this hybrid world for longer than any of us want to or would plan to. And so how we understand our own internal triggers, recognize what wellness is for us, and our individual engagement levers, that's what's going to help us continue to get through this, especially if you're an extrovert 30, like I am, and my friend Courtney, who's the only other 30 I know, and you just want to crave people right now. There's got to be, you've got to find other outlets to stay engaged. See, what do you think? Since you're in your introvert world over there.
I mean, I wouldn't add much other than, you know, we spend a lot of time as just human beings trying to figure out how we should act, how we should feel in particular situations. And in addition to what Kiera said about self-reflection and understanding how you operate, you also have the choice not to. If you want to be petty, right? If you ain't interested in self-reflection, don't. Right. And so if that is personally of interest to you and a passion and it's something you want to do, by all means, go do it. But the core of the story is do whatever is needed for you. There is no standard of how you're supposed to operate in this time. The most important thing is that you feel like you're the same honest person you've always been, whether you're petty, privileged, happy, sad, introvert, extrovert, be true to you. Because it can get caught up with trying to mimic what other people are doing because you think that's the behavior you should display. You will only be happy if you do the things that work for you, because you can't do what everybody else is doing. You don't have the same tools, right? And so if you are not interested in what might be, and this is actually me and Kiera's relationship, to be honest with you, she is an optimist. She's always got energy. She looks at the brighter side of things. And so I just act like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. Right? And we don't make each other operate differently, right? But Kiera knows that regardless of how I operate on a daily basis, she can tell if my petty is good or bad. Like, is that a good petty? Let me see if C's okay, versus that's her normal petty. And so I think it's more about be who you are, operate with people in whichever way makes you comfortable, and then don't try to change each other. And you'll just save a whole bunch of hours for things like retail shopping if you do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At Target.
Right. And don't judge yourself if you feel like you're, I just don't feel like myself. You probably don't, because this is an atypical time that we're living in. Myself wants to get in the car and drive to Nordstrom's and just smell the fresh air of new shoes. Yeah. I can't do that right now, right? So whatever that is for you, if you start to have this internal thing of, I just don't feel like myself, it's because we're operating in the strangest time ever. Don't start beating up on yourself and thinking like, oh my gosh, there's something wrong with me. No, we have an enemy. Its name is COVID-19. It's wreaking havoc on the world. No one person brought that to be. It's the circumstance that we're in right now. And so my point of that, and see, you said it so well, is like, don't tell yourself a story about something that isn't true just because you've been feeling a certain kind of way in this space that we're in right now. It would be odd if you didn't. It would be, different if you didn't. So like, just acknowledge that it is strange right now. And because of that, you might feel different ways about different things that didn't bother you the same way before, and that's okay.
Yeah, and you triggered another thought. By the way, since Kiera said she's a 30 on the extrovert scale, real fact, I'm actually a 30 on the introvert scale. Like, I'll actually show you, like, literally that's how far apart we sit. One of the things that I think really triggered as you were talking, Kiera, is an advocate for yourself. Advocate for what you need, right? So I'm on a Zoom video call, and I will not move past one hand on how many video calls I've done on Zoom. I've had a lot of Zoom calls. I haven't been on video a lot because y'all probably see me shifting 45 different ways. Like, I get obsessed with looking at myself like, oh girl, what? That's what we did yesterday. Oh, look at that. Right? Like, I just get distracted. And so I'm not paying attention to what's happening. So when we went into this COVID moment and we're working from home and Zoom came on, I just gave him an avatar, right? And then my friend Steve Brophy was the first person to actually go, you don't do video? And I was like, no. He was like, oh, why? And I'm like, because I don't like it. And I don't concentrate well. And he was like, that's a good answer. And it was done, right? So like, advocate for what you need for yourself. And here's the thing. If you are in a place and in any sort of organizational relationship, and you think something like choosing not to be on video Zoom is career limiting, you're working for the wrong place.
Okay.
That should not be something you have to feel pressured to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have 4 questions in our Q&A, and I cannot guarantee that these questions could be asked because they're here representing Target. We will have to get on another call to play in fun. So I will address them, and if this is a question you can answer. Kobe is saying that Target is known for having world-class benefits for its employees. Can you speak on how your employee benefit strategy either changed or was modified for COVID-19 to help employees? Would love to hear your insights in the direction of employee benefits through the lens of the pandemic.
Sure. You can start because you rolled them all out.
Sure. Along with a lot of partners in the stores organization, many of them are on the call. Again, the heroes that help us get through this. I'll highlight two big changes that we implement. Caroline spoke to both of them earlier. First was thinking about how we could provide leaves of absence that were paid to our most vulnerable population. So those over 65, those that were pregnant, and those that had underlying health conditions. Because what we do know about this virus, based on what we've gotten from our medical professionals in the CDC, is they're at higher risk of infection and of long-term impact or illness because of that. So that was one thing that we did pretty quickly to ensure that we were taking care of our team. The other thing that we did was really expand backup care benefits to our team. And so again, with schools being canceled and folks working, I'm in that situation in my own house. Those that don't have kids in school age yet, but other daycare facilities and childcare facilities closed down, we extended those benefits to our team to ensure that they didn't have to, not only did what they have to worry about being well, like, oh man, I got to go to work because I'm sick and I got to get paid. We've got the vulnerable leave for that. But we also wanted to make sure that we protected those that needed that childcare need, right? Like, oh my gosh, if my kids aren't going to school or their daycare closes down, I can't go to work. So I would call those two benefits out as, you know, really important ones that we implemented pretty quickly. That again, just were an investment in our team and putting our team member at the center of this decision.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that, and this may not have been quote unquote a benefit before COVID, but we made the decisions, are our team members in our stores are committed to serving our guests. I mean, in a way that is the epitome of selflessness and service, but they also need to be able to make purchases to provide for their family. And so one of the other things that I really love that sits adjacent to this is giving our team members separate hours where they could buy from the store what they need for their families, so that they could then, when they are scheduled to, be able to serve the guest and not have to decide between the two things. And so even though that may not have been quote unquote a benefit before COVID, it was a decision made to benefit our team. And I think that everybody in this pandemic is innovating new ways to do things differently. And that was one that I was really proud of us for, to say what you need for your families is just as important as what the guests need. So we're going to give you time to do that as you selflessly serve our guests on a daily basis.
That's awesome. You know, looking at a particular question Joyce is asking in the Q&A, and a couple of questions I saw, there was a lot of questions on culture. You know, is the culture natural or neutral, or the culture, how did you maintain the culture going from an in-person, you know, organization to a virtual one? So would either you like to speak to, you know, your culture and what it means to you, and how your culture, I know you said you've already shown you're going to be who you are, even in bad.
Go ahead, C.
So I'll start, and you can take it. So here's a couple of things that I would say about that. One, it's really critical to understand how our organization is set up. We're a retailer. Mm-hmm. The smallest percent of our team is in headquarters location.
That's right.
Right? Damn near 80% of our team, if not higher than that, does not sit in a headquarters environment. And when this hit, and we knew that we needed to be available to serve the guest, and we decided that we would be able to keep our team safe, most of our population was going to be working. And you can't help guests from home in the way that we do in a store, right? There's other functions that can do that. So the part that went to virtual, from a physical impact perspective, was a lot of the headquarters locations. But what I would also say was culturally important was the minute this started to get hot, and my colleague Steve Brophy, who is leading our company through this kind of unprecedented time, really did a great job of organizing things. And what became declarative really early is the focus in COVID is going to be our stores, our DCs, our guests, our team. If you're working on something else, not right now. And get out of the way of the people that are the closest to being able to deliver for that. Trust the experts who know what to do. Be comfortable with 80% good decisions versus a decision needing to be perfect. Get out of the way if you're not involved in the decision. You do not have the right to be informed unless it's relevant to you, because we're in the middle of a crisis. Offer your help where you can. But this idea of galvanizing the organizational energy around where we were going to be spending our time to meet those core objectives that are true to our culture was a really important, loud, said, implemented statement, because it got everybody in line. It got everybody in line. Yes, Caroline, that was cute. You don't get to do it, because we are over here trying to do that. And by the way, I don't have time to work with your feelings about how you feel about where it's going. We're in the middle of a crisis. Mm-hmm. Step it up and get out of the way, or get in and play the role you need to play, because we're focused. And then like I said before, our culture, our purpose to help all families discover the joy of everyday life, 5 values that articulate that, our commitment to make sure that our guest is getting something, became really easy decision filters when we had to make decisions here and there. That is not the time to come up with your cultural framework. So if you don't have a cultural framework that can guide you through decisions, then it becomes hard and inefficient to make decisions in times like this, and it gets hard to rally the rest of the team around it. So
Right.
those are what I would say about the cultural stuff. Kiera, I don't know if you'd add anything.
I wouldn't add anything to that. I think it was beautifully said. It
Thanks.
was, yeah. Most of us that sit in the headquarters functions are the ones that are working differently. And we're doing that through a lot of technology. We're getting really clear on what our priorities are. And those priorities are what are the most critical things that we need to do to take care of our team, make sure that we're providing those essential needs for our guests, and that we're not creating a distraction for the boots on the ground frontline leaders that are unlocking that for us. And when you had those filters, it was very easy to operate.
I see Millette in the Q&A. She is asking a great question that follows that. Are you doing anything to reward your heroes in retail? Because I know, that talent is, executing and making sure that the strategies that you put out there are executed properly.
Our friend Brad is on the call, and he would talk about, he's got so much great stuff to say as well. Kiera, add in his stuff as you tell him your stuff.
So next time we'll have Brad join us for a chat. He's actually the SVP that leads our stores HR function, and is my partner in crime in many of the things that we're talking about, because he's got the other operational side of this, our stores team. And so we think about, Caroline talked about the additional shopping hours that we've made sure that teams have had. This is public information. We had $2 incentive for our hourly population in the front lines that are working with our guests every day, that are working in our distribution centers every day, to make sure that we're thinking about, just the extraordinary moment that we're in right now, and that we're giving credence to that. In addition to the benefits that we're providing around that backup daycare that is critical to our team, and that vulnerable leave, we'll continue to prioritize those things.
That's awesome. I'm wondering, talk a little bit about maybe suppliers, your suppliers, because I can remember when this thing first happened, and I don't know why, the toilet tissue syndrome.
Listen, I mean, it's a whole thing. Toilet paper about to be a class in civics.
Yes, but the only store that I finally told my mom, my 87-year-old mom, because I'm shopping for 2 households now, I'm going to go in Target, and if it's not there, I'm just going to have to whatever. And it was the
good answer, Sheila. Good answer. And you can get that toilet paper through Drive Up, order picked up, shipped delivery, Target.com. I mean, there's nothing that you can't get right there at your car or at your door.
You better sell, Kiera Fernandez.
Suppliers are just as innovative. Talk a little bit about how you all are engaging with your suppliers to make all of this thing streamlined.
Yeah, I would say that's the other really critical team, our merchants and our sourcing team and our inventory management team that are working directly. I mean, they're under some of the same challenges and duress that we are, right? Like, no one's ever wanted this much Clorox wipes ever. And so certainly they just can't mass produce stuff on a dime. Earlier I was talking about, your vendor relationships. Everything that we're talking about accelerating takes time on upstream or on the back end. And so we have really great partnerships. Our merchant teams have great partnerships with our vendors, and I'll tell you that they are working together day in and day out to make sure that we capture the products that our guests are purchasing the most, and thinking through the ways that we can replenish those. And that's really where our supply chain team and our stores team and our merchant teams are coming together in a way a better way than I've ever seen, like real partnership. Sometimes crises tear families apart or they divide them. That's not happening to us. This has actually pulled us all together and helped us get really focused on what are the most critical things. And everybody being in your lane, right? Like, it's not my lane to go negotiate with the Clorox vendor. So I'm not going to insert myself in that. I'm going to give respect and deference to the experts that do that every day, and make sure the things that I'm doing are not creating a roadblock or adding undue duress or being a distraction to that. So clarity in who owns what and how they're bringing that to life is actually the same way that we're interfacing with our vendors and our suppliers. And they're doing the best that they can to make sure that these essentials are being provided to the country too. They are doing their very best.
Caroline, did you want to add anything?
What she said.
I know you're not futurists or have crystal balls and can see into the future, but as leaders, as personal leaders, and not necessarily employees of Target, even though we're going to be mindful of that, what have you learned through this where you can speak to innovation, what we might better be thinking, and and just what that it's going to look very differently on when we get on the other side. We already know that the environment is healthier, so not necessarily a negative thing. Anything that you're learning that you could share with us from an innovation lens?
That's a good question.
I think, Sheila, here's what I would say from an innovation lens, from a leadership perspective on innovation lens. I think that the expectations of what it means to be a good leader are static, right? Like they are what they are. What people are learning in this time is how to still deliver the outcomes that good leadership serves in an environment that has stripped a lot of the ways you normally do that, right? So as Kiera talks about being a hugger and needing that social interaction, if we're going to be in these work from home states for those that are in headquarters locations for a year, Kiera leads her team with that part of her personality. That is still important. And for her team, those particular components resonate to how they feel Kiera feels about them. So now Kiera has to come up with a whole new, different, innovative plan for delivering what she used to deliver through physical interaction without it. She doesn't get to not do it because it's core to her leadership, right? And I would say the same thing for me. Like, I'm authentic. I'm a real one. I say what I'm thinking, and I'm perfectly fine that 50% of the time I'll be in trouble for what I said. But I don't get to go quiet because now I don't get to run around the halls and say it. I have to do it via a Zoom call, or I might not be in as many meetings as I needed to be, or the work that I'm doing doesn't need to be talked about with everybody. Like, I still have to be committed to my leadership style. And so my team is of high priority. It's not their job to figure out how to get that for me. It's my job to understand how I diversify my toolkit, and agnostic if we ever go back to normal, your portfolio is more diverse and better for it anyway, right? And so that becomes it. I would just say it's about the expectations have not changed. The delivery method has. And so you need to be in front of that. And again, the work that Emily's doing with our team to teach leaders and equip them with tools on that is a great example. But if the leaders don't use the tools, who cares?
Right.
That is an excellent response. Kiera.
I totally agree with her. And I mean, me being a hugger is not diminished. And so when we were in the office, my team, anyone that's worked for me knows I love a good ride by. That's what I call, like, my office door is open. Like, if I'm in there and you have something on your mind, just do a ride by. Let's come in and let's talk about it. And so my version of ride bys now is I have a daily stand up with my team. That's how we start our morning almost every day. And we talk through, like, what's going on, what's the hot topic. We do a wellness check-in. I have people on my team who, have kids that were supposed to graduate this year. And they're managing through missing some of those milestones, prom and graduation and all those things while they're still working. So that check-in on how's everything happening in life that I would normally do in person, over coffee or over lunch, I've had to iterate what that is. And we're doing that over Zoom, or we're doing it through, a funny text stream that we have, or we're sending each other funny Giphies. Because that's the way that I'm going to be able to still, to Caroline's point, be authentic to how I am as a leader, and still make sure that we're delivering on the outcomes that are really important. And to do that, we've just got to, think of how we communicate differently. So my virtual ride-bys are our daily stand-ups.
Yeah, Kiera, you triggered another thought, which is Daniel on my team, probably about 2 weeks or so into the work from home moment, hit one of his children had a birthday and they weren't going to be able to have a birthday party. So our whole team got on there with all our kids and had a birthday party virtually. And for Daniel's child to be able to see other little kids having a birthday, and I don't know if we'd have celebrated Daniel's child's birthday if we were in the office. We might have known, but we may not have, right? So we had a 7-minute birthday song with all my team and all their kids of all different ages, so that we were still delivering on something that was important. But here's a piece I would say. It's very similar to what I said about crisis. If you are a leader, and in this age, you are struggling to figure out what your authentic leadership is, or you're finding it difficult to translate the way you're leading into this virtual place, my advice is you need to go back and see if you're being an authentic leader. You might need to go back and find who you are, because here you anchor into your foundations. You don't this is not where you be like, you know what, today I'm gonna try. Look, I have to be anchored enough in what my leadership authenticity is so that I can focus on delivering it through another mechanism. So if you're having trouble figuring out what your authentic leadership is and how to transfer it, you may not have been completely in your authentic leadership. Spend some time there, because it should click. And often in a crisis, we find out how locked in it is.
Mm-hmm. And the people around you will tell you. So if you're not sure, ask them. Like, do you guys feel like we're getting the things accomplished that we normally get accomplished? What needs to be different? What do you think? How are we operating? Because it's just going to be an adjustment for everyone. And we cannot be in pursuit of perfection like that. If there's anything, y'all, that you like, disregard everything else and just give yourself some grace, and don't be in pursuit of perfection. Be in pursuit of getting the outcome that's really important, and know that you're going to hit your toe, you're going to bump your head, you're going to run into somebody, you're going to annoy somebody, you're going to get annoyed with yourself, frustrated, all that along the way. But did you get there? And did you do it in a way that you learned something, other people learned something, and you'll do it differently next time? That's what matters.
Okay. Well, we're at the top of the hour, and this has been an amazing, amazing time together. But I do always like to end with our guest presenters having the last words. So while I am sharing my last words, Kiera and Caroline, please think of what you would like your last words to be to this group. To this group, I want to thank you for joining us, and to let you know that I have the privilege and the honor to be a partner, an external partner for Target. And they will, they support our conference. We are going to have a virtual conference, and I have already been told that Target will be a part of it. So mark your calendars for October the 8th. And I really, really think that we should try to get Caroline to be a closing keynote. We already know that we may have Laisha as opening, but we love who you are, how you treat all of your customers, how you treat your suppliers, and we are most grateful to you. And we are on October the 8th, as a result of their partnerships, everybody will have a t-shirt with our theme on it. Like our theme for our webinars are moving forward. Our theme for our conference is going to be Power Forward. So we won't have Caroline's t-shirt on, but we're going to have Power Forward on, because this, as I started out saying, this is all about helping women leaders, our male allies, turn our powerlessness into power. And we are going to power forward beyond COVID. And we as women, especially women, we cannot afford to take one step backwards. So Kiera and Caroline, please have the final last words.
Go ahead, Key.
I'll be brief. I just want to thank our organization, our Target team, our peers that have helped us work through this. I want to send a special shout out of love to my HR team in supply chain and operations, and our business partners who are working tirelessly to make sure that we're taking the best care of our team and the best care of our guests and the best care of our communities through this. And even in that, we are still doing the day-to-day work to make sure that we're the best company ever and that we're the best workplace ever. And to all of them that are doing this every day, there are families behind them that are making sacrifices on the back end so we can do what we need to do to service America. So I thank all of you guys. I wish all of you that are on this webinar that you're safe, you're well, take care of each other, and we're sending you lots of love. All right.
Yeah, I would close with a quote that is used in the spirit of love from like intimacy between two people. But if you think about love as just a way of taking care of one another, I don't know who wrote it because I be finding stuff on the internet and then I don't claim it. I just say somebody on the internet wrote it. And so it goes like this: love is not about loving the perfect person. It's about loving the imperfect person perfectly. And I would say that the season that we're living in right now is going to continue to be a series of imperfections related to a crisis that's sitting in front of us, a series of imperfections on the decisions we get right and don't get right, a series of imperfections on the way we interact because we're stressed to the max. But if you are able to accept the fact that love isn't about being the perfect person in this moment, but it's about loving the imperfect person and practicing perfect love, we will all survive, we will all thrive. Kiera and I can go and finally get this biological landscaping in order. And so, you know, with that, the only other thing that I will say is this.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Loving, surviving. Thank you.
Bye, you guys. Be safe, be well.
Be safe, stay well.
Get your nails done.
Yes.